All right. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, everybody. Today, the video we're going over is called I Am Not Your Negro by James Baldwin on the Dick Cavett Show. So we're going to get right into this.
I would like to add someone to our group here. Professor Paul Weiss, a Sterling Professor of Philosophy at Yale. Were you able to listen to the show backstage?
I heard a good deal of it, but then I was behind the rostrum here.
Yes.
So I heard only some of it.
Did you hear anything that you disagreed with?
I disagreed with a great deal of it. And, of course, it's a good deal I agree with. But I think he's overlooking one very important matter, I think. Each one of us, I think, is terribly alone. He lives his own individual life. He has all kinds of obstacles in the way of religion or color or size or shape or lack of ability, and the problem is to become a man.
But what I was discussing was not that problem, really. I was discussing the difficulties, the obstacles, the very real danger of death thrown up by this society when a black man attempts to become a man.
All this emphasis upon black man and white does emphasize something which is here, but it emphasizes it or perhaps exaggerates it, and therefore makes us put people together in groups which they ought not to be in. I have more in common with a black scholar than I have with a white man who's against scholarship. And you have more in common with a white author than you have with someone who's against all literature. So why must we always concentrate on color or on religion or this? There are other ways of connecting men.
This is so crazy because I don't know what year this is. I'm going to have to do some research. I don't know what year this is, but this is the same thing you hear today. Like literally, why do you always have to talk about race? But if you haven't experienced what it's like to be us because you're not us, then you don't understand what it feels like to be under those curses in Deuteronomy that God was telling you about. So he's like, why do you want to separate? But y'all, other people have their own groups. Jewish people have their own communities. They look out for each other. They are already separated. So he's like, why do you have to separate it off of color? We would be closer if I was with another intellectual. We would have more in common than if I was with somebody else. But you guys have already separated yourselves. You already have your unique groups and everything. Man, it's crazy because I don't know what year this is, but in 2022, you can hear the same sentiment coming back from counterparts of or friends of a different ethnicity. Let's get it.
I'll tell you this. When I left this country in 1948, I left this country for one reason only, one reason. I didn't care where I went. I might have gone to Hong Kong, I might have gone to Timbuktu. I ended up in Paris, on the streets of Paris, with $40 in my pocket on the theory that nothing worse could happen to me there than had already happened to me here. You talk about making it as a writer by yourself. You had to be able then to turn off all the antenna with which you live, because once you turn your back on this society, you may die. You may die. And it's very hard to sit at a typewriter and concentrate on that if you're afraid of the world around you. The years I lived in Paris did one thing for me. They released me from that particular social terror, which was not the paranoia of my own mind, but a real social danger visible in the face of every cop, every boss, everybody. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to go back. I'm sorry. I'll pause it again. Free use, free use. I don't want to get any strikes against me. But like he said, it's a real terror that he's not making up in his mind that he witnessed. He said awe, which I guarantee back then it probably was awe, but even now you can still see it in most. You hang around somebody, they're gonna eventually make that racist joke or that tie you to some type of like when I was younger, they used to always say black people love grape pop. First off, I don't even drink pop. and then they were and then they were like black people don't know how to swim, and I could swim better than most of them. But these are what I'm saying, stigmatisms that they put on you, or as a people, they'll clump you all together as a people and say, "Well, this is how black people are." At when they're joking, it's their joking time. And when you're talking about another person's race, that your race is always considered inferior, understand that to those people, that's how it comes off, as if you think that they are inferior, as if we don't know how to swim or we don't know how to do other things. And not just talking about that alone, like I've had plenty of incidences. Like I was 14. I was 14 years old when I had the first gun put to my head by a police officer. Me and a guy I know, he's a truck driver now, got his own business. We were in the car. We left the football game. It was a fight at the football game, and we bugged up out the football game. We were going to see our rivals or something, and ended up getting pulled over by the police. Uh, and they like surrounded us with like 20 cars, guns out everywhere. Get down, get down, get down, putting the guns to us, pointing to us. I was 14. By the time I was 17, I had guns pointed at me, put to me by police officers 3 times. I was talking to my buddy about it, and I, cause he was talking about how dramatic that was, but I guess I just considered it normal. I just ate it up, sucked it in. It was like, well, this is what it is. This is what my uncles, my aunts, my mom, this is what other people have been warning me about. So I'm just now experiencing, since I'm, getting to those teenage ages, between teenager and becoming a young man, this is what I was pre-warned about. I can, where talking to my buddy, I realized this, what we went through was a really dramatic thing. It was really dramatic, and it could have really altered everybody's life and perception because of how we were dealt with by the people who are supposed to be our authorities and have our best interests. Now, we're kids with guns pointed to our head by multiple people of a different ethnicity. And like I said, it might only happen to my buddy once, but it happened to me multiple times. Let's get it. Let's get this real quick. Let's go back and get it again.
Boss, everybody. I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only conclude what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians, and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby has anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto.
Ooh.
I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks I give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
Oh, man, all of that was tough, man. Like, oh man, all of that was tough. Like he said, it's so crazy because I don't know when this was made by James Baldwin. I don't know when this was made. Matter of fact, let's go look him up. I don't know when this was made, but I can tell you this. A lot of the stuff he hit on actually hits home today, where he talks about the institutions. He talks about, it's a lot of those same things, being able to get a loan, being able to, thrive in the institution. They actually had to come up with a law to give us equal rights, and now they say that that's unequal for us to have the law that gives us equal rights. And I can't think about what it's called. The Supreme Court is debating over it right now. Okay. James Baldwin. Let's see about him. He was born August 2nd, 1924. December 1st, 1827 is when he died. He was an American writer, generally acclaimed across various mediums, including essays, novels, plays, and poems. His first novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, was published in 1953. Decades later, Time magazine included the novel on its list of 100 best novels. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's look up something else. Let's look up Bible. Okay. Now, man, we gotta go back to that dude again and hear what he said, cause everything he said hit home so deeply. So let's get back here. Play it again.
I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday.
And that's probably still true. That's probably still true. High noon on Sunday is probably the most segregated hour, even though the so-called black people are leaving the black church and stepping into their true identity as Jerusalem, God's people. But this is probably still the most segregated time, and that's crazy. He probably in the 40s, 50s at this time because he looks relatively young, and it still relates. This is almost 100 years later, and the things he's saying is still relatable.
That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor union.
And you know why he said he couldn't trust the Christian church? Because the black Christians were taught by the white Christians and were made non-hostile, non-aggression. Not, I don't think we should be violent or aggressive, but you should stand up and defend and protect. And for the longest time, that's why they needed Martin Luther King to galvanize the troops, get the churches to come together, because for the longest amount of time we stayed segregated, preached God, preached mercy, preached peace, and suffered everything without standing up and fighting for it. So I could understand what he's saying because he was expecting more out of him. Because he quoted Malcolm X, and Malcolm X was kind of saying he had some lines where he said the same thing.
Unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto.
Till this day, black people still mostly occupy the ghetto. They don't know much about owning their own land, having property. And then when you think about owning property, you might own a house, but your house is technically owned by the city. Once you go to the sidewalk, you can't tell a person to get off your sidewalk. That belongs to the city. So like you might own that grass up to the house, and your neighbor could be a foot away from you. But that's all they're saying you own. And don't pay your taxes, and then you won't own it. So
I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks they give my children to read.
till this day, another one till this day, they're right now trying to roll back there because they were gonna start teaching more accurate history, including slavery and what happened to the Native Americans. Um, but they're rolling it back. They're saying that this is race baiting and this is this and this, and so we don't need to have this taught in our schools, which is what we've been experiencing all our life, not having the truth taught in our schools. So it's crazy that this guy's saying this almost 100 years ago, and all this stuff he's saying is playing out the same way. Like 100 years later, we're seeing the same issues. And like I mentioned earlier with the white guy, he said the same thing that they say. Why y'all always make this about color? Well, you think you experience injustice, walk around in our skin for a couple weeks or a year so you can understand what injustice really is. It's amazing. Let's
And the
get it.
schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
Oh, so you want him to risk everything for some idealism that you assure him exists in America that he's never seen. That is what we're talking about. They the freedom, the right, the freedom to be considered innocent until proven guilty. Black people know unless you got Johnny Cochran or you went out the big bucks for your lawyer, 90% of the times when you step in that courtroom, you are perceived guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. That's how it works. It's not the way it's supposed to work, where you're innocent unless you're proven guilty. Now that only works for black people when you have money, and sometimes it don't work when you have money. You're guilty until you can prove your innocence. Even with people with money, like R. Kelly, they dropping charges. He about to get, I think he about to get released soon. But people know that he was persecuted in the public eye before he ever had the trial, right? Michael Jackson, they stopped Chris Brown from doing the Michael Jackson song because they said, or the Michael Jackson, where he was gonna redo the Michael Jackson song in the dances, like, to commemorate Michael Jackson. But they said, well, Chris Brown's a woman beater and Michael Jackson is a child molester. Michael Jackson has never been proven in the court to be a child molester. Mike, the guy who never wrote nothing bad in his songs, who always talked about peace and love and harmony and people coming together. This is the guy that they say, well, he molested child. Let's ban him. So as I'm showing this to show people this is what happens. This is what happens. They will try us in public opinion, and sometimes that could lead to us being tried in courts. So I just think that this was a really dope video, and it makes me think of when he was talking about the institutions, the getting loans and the where he stay. Let me go to this. I'm gonna wrap this video up after this, but I just had to hit this Bible up. Let's see. Here we go. This is the one I like to go to. The official King James. So we're gonna go to Deuteronomy, and we're gonna think it's in 28. 28. I believe, I want to say it's 40. I could be off. Okay, it says, thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they go into captivity. Which is exactly what happens. The black people, soon as their children typically hit 18, it's there's a separation. Boom, they separate. They're grown now, so they're separated. Where you read in the Bible over and over about the children taking care of their parents, but now it's separated. I got to make my own life. I got to live my own thing. Which you're stronger as a family than you are separated. If you got 8 people in a house, that means that y'all could probably own that house and then start moving on to the next people. But it's taught, no, you got to go get that house by yourself, which mathematically doesn't make sense. If you got 5 people who make $50,000 a year it's more beneficial to have those 5 people in the same house as $250,000 a year. They would get more of the things they wanted and own the other things that they were trying to accomplish together. It says, all thy trees and fruit, the land of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Right? So this is kind of what the guy was talking about. The people around us are so much higher than us, and we become very low. Therefore, we face the persecution. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. Right? Because we don't give them from the banks, we receive from the banks with interest. By the way, we have to pay interest on our receiving. It says, he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Right? And forever is speaking about until our Lord and our Savior comes and helps us out of the current situation we're in. Till he comes and saves us. Till we come together as a people under his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded us, and then we can be saved. So I just brought this up because a lot of what he was speaking on are the curses. Why it says right there, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. That is what he's speaking of. He's speaking of these curses that were placed on us in Deuteronomy, that were on us during his time. And like we said, almost 100 years later, 80, 70 years later, if you round it up, you go up to 100 to the nearest 3 digits. We talking about almost 100 years later, and a lot of the same things that James Baldwin, I'm not looking at his name, so I might have butchered it, but that he brought up still resonate to this day, and they will resonate until our Savior breaks our chains and gets us up out of this place and places us into a kingdom that he has prepared for us. On that note, I just wanted to say, hey, peace. I appreciate y'all if y'all tuned in to the video. Do some research on this guy, and I thank you for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the comment button if you have any comments, or if you have any ideas of any videos you would like me to react to, even if it's, as long as it's dealing with, our people, the Bible, the word, anything like that, drop it in the comment section, and I'll look up the video and I'll give y'all a reaction to it. I thank y'all for tuning in, and peace out, man. Yeah, I appreciate y'all tuning in. So thank y'all for tuning in once again. Barakatah, and y'all have a blessed one. All right, Shalom.